Great Scott! Great Scott! Great Scott!
Hello everyone and welcome to another edition of Great Scott. I'm Scotty V and thanks for watching. Well, it's been a long campaign and now that it's almost time for you to decide which candidate to go with, I thought on this particular episode I would try and help you. We have Superboy, Supergirl, Superman, and Action Comics. And what I've been hearing mostly after about a year, a little over a year of the New 52, from most people is the New 52 just doesn't do it for me. This isn't my Superman. Superman's this whiner, emo, hypocritical guy who is violent and brash and kind of arrogant. And this isn't a Superman that I want to read about. Now, I've mentioned before that most times, in my experience, what I find is that when people say those sort of things, they're the people who haven't actually read what's been going on. Not actually people who are informed or people who know what is happening or people that have read it and just decided that it's not the story that they want to read, which would then be okay. I'm going to be completely honest. I do not just buy anything that has an S on it just because. I do have a lot of shirts. I do have a lot of statues and things. And Superman, obviously, is my favorite. And I think he's the greatest comic book hero ever written. And I think that's evident. But if the stories aren't good, if the stories turn me off, I will admit that. I understand what they're trying to go for. I see that if they come out with a guy who is exactly like Superman, who does everything right and is morally and ethically upstanding and knows exactly who he should be and what he should be doing and completely understands his powers, then we have a duplicate of Superman. So they want to make it different. Plus, he's young and brand new. He's trying to understand the world. He's trying to understand his powers. He's trying to decide which way he wants to go. And assumedly, as he always has, he's got DNA from both Superman and from an evil source, which used to be Lex Luthor. We'll see what happens with that. Therefore, possibly, he has something inside him that's leading him one way or another, and eventually he makes the decision to be a hero, ultimately, and stops doing things like robbing banks and such. It's very complicated. There's lots of different things going on, and to me it just seems like it's convoluted and doesn't really have a clear focus. The art also hasn't been good, and the story's just been lacking. That I can say after having read. It's kind of hit or miss for me. Most people looked at the costume and said, I can't read a Supergirl with that costume, but I can't come across and say that because then that sounds like I'm ill-informed. Instead, I will say, the New 52 doesn't do it for me. I don't like Supergirl. But what they truly mean is I can't stand that her knees are showing in these weird boots, so I'm not going to read it. Or this isn't really Supergirl, so I'm not going to read it, which I don't know what the deal is. I'm not sure if they're going to go back to the old way or just continue with this or what the situation is, but you got to read it to know whether or not it's good. I've been reading it, and there are good episodes and bad episodes. I would say that, again, it's kind of, they don't seem to know where they're going, and the biggest thing that bothers me with Supergirl is Superman is there. Okay, she doesn't seem to believe that he's telling the truth, that Krypton was destroyed and that he's her cousin and that he's been here all this time. She seems to think that there's something weird going on and that Krypton still exists. Okay, so maybe she wouldn't go to him. But she's going to people like Syaban, who is the Banshee, who is at most times a villain. So, but she's going to her for a connection to humanity, to try and make her feel more normal, and that girl's anything but normal. And so, but I could see her not going to Superman if she really doesn't believe that he is who he says he is, but I think that Superman would go to her, or at least watch out for her, or try to convince her on a more, level basis, but he doesn't do that. He just kind of ignores that she's there, which doesn't seem like something Superman would do. Grant Morrison has got a weird, wacky style. He kind of comes out of left field and just expects you to get what he's going for, and a lot of times you don't. Many of the stories have been very interesting. I love the way it started. I love that he was a little weaker in his powers. I love that he was brash. I love that he was willing to throw guys around. Is it really that bad that Superman gets a little upset with guys who are taking advantage of other people, who are hurting the little guy, who are doing really bad things while most of us are following the law and getting along in society? I don't think it is. Now, I understand that the fully grown, fully mature Superman does his best to hold back and doesn't really throw guys through walls, but sometimes you get upset, and to me, that makes him even more human, as opposed to just being stoic and able to control all of his emotions all the time. And this was the beginning. This was when he was, you know, as I said, young and trying to learn his powers. It's 5 years before he has become the full-fledged Superman. He's wearing the jeans and the shirt. And again, most people, oh, that outfit is stupid. I can't read that. And maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but it's the story that matters. And it makes sense to me that a guy who has these powers wouldn't necessarily have a fully formed costume and would wear whatever just to go out and do good in the world. And he really is doing good, and he still stands for all the things that Superman has always stood for: truth, justice, those sort of things. The little guy, 5 years into the future, and all the other heroes are around, and he is fully formed and fully mature. It's really a heavy story. There's a lot of dialogue. There's a lot of Clark Kent scenes. There's a lot of Daily Planet stuff. The supporting cast that everybody complains was never there before is back. And still we get complaints that he's hypocritical. He does things like quit his job and then think that he shouldn't have done it. But that, again, makes him more human when he steps up and says, I stand for truth, justice, and the American way, and you guys are screwing around with those concepts when you lie, when you spread rumors, when you sensationalize, when you simply make up stories for entertainment. You're not really telling the truth. You're not really telling the news, and I'm not going to stand for it anymore. Who's with me? And he walks out. Then after the fact, he says, I don't know if I should have done that, because now what am I going to do? But that's a normal reaction for anyone when they quit their job, especially when it's something so important to him, his career. You know, a lot of people feel that that sort of thing is essential to who you are, where you work. Not so much work, but when you really have something you're passionate for and it's your life. Aside from being Superman, he really cares about the truth. He really cares about reporting the news. And this has been in place since episode 1, issue 1, Superman, where he complained about Morgan Edge taking over. He complained about the Daily Planet being a multimedia news conglomerate and said that it was sensationalized and it wasn't really in place anymore for telling the news. So finally, it's come to a point where he has to walk out on it. So I would say the New 52 is hit or miss in a lot of places. On the Superman front, I'm reading some other books that I like as well. But, you know, it's in its infancy stages, so it needed some time, and they're building, and there's some things happening. I'm hoping with the new creative team on Action, we're going to see some better things happen. It's going to be a little more cohesive. It's going to be a little more easy to understand. And we have Hell on Earth coming up, which could be anything. Who knows what's going to go on with that. But thanks for watching, everybody. And remember, always look up in the sky.